Okay, so this is January 12th, 2025. We're going to continue with the Mishneh Torah. We're going to start the Hilchot Talmud Torah. It's the laws of Torah study. Chapter 1, they include two positive mitzvot, which are first, to study Torah, second, to honor its teachers and scholars. The clarification of these two mitzvot follow in these chapters. Chapter 1, Parak Aleph. Women and slaves are exempt from Torah study, but a minor male, his father, is obligated to teach him Torah, as it states, and you shall teach them to your sons to speak of them. A woman is not obligated to teach her son, for only one who is himself obligated to study is obligated to teach. So that's actually a principle that you'll see come back later on. Only the person who is obligated to study is obligated to teach. Just as one is obligated to teach his son, so is he obligated to teach his grandson, as it states, and you shall teach them to your sons and to your sons' sons. And not only to one's sons and grandson, rather, it is incumbent upon every sage in Israel to teach all students, although they are not his sons, as it states, and you shall teach them to your sons. By oral tradition, they learned that your sons refers to your students, for students are called sons, as it states, and the sons of the prophets went forth. If so, why is one commanded regarding his son and his grandson? To imply that one is to give precedence to his son over his grandson, and to give his grandson precedence over his fellow son. One is obligated to hire a teacher to teach his son, but is only obligated to arrange to teach his fellow son for free. One whose father did not teach him is obligated to teach him. One whose father did not teach him is obligated to teach himself when he is old enough to realize, as it states, and you shall teach them and be careful to fulfill them. And so we find in all situations that study precedes active fulfillment. For study leads to action, but action does not lead to study. If one wishes to study Torah with a paid teacher himself and also has a son who needs to study, he takes precedence over his son. But if he has a son who is smarter and will succeed at his studies more than he, his son takes precedence. Although his son takes precedence, he himself should not sit idle, for just as it is incumbent upon him to teach his son, so is he commanded to teach himself. One should always first study Torah and only afterward marry a wife. For if he first marries a wife, his thoughts will not be free for study. But if he feels his base inclinations overcoming him to the point that his thoughts are not free, he should first marry a wife and then study Torah. When must a father begin to teach his son Torah? When his son begins to speak, he teaches him. The Torah was commanded to us by Moshe. In the first verse of the portion of Shema. He then teaches him scriptural passages little by little until age 6 or 7, depending on his ability. At that point, he brings him to a teacher of children. If it is the accepted practice in a city for teachers of children to be paid, he must pay his son's tuition fee. A father is obligated to pay for his son's education till he completes the study of the entire written Torah. There we go. In a place where the accepted practice is to teach the written Torah for a fee, it is permitted to accept a tuition fee. It is, however, forbidden to accept a tuition fee for teaching the oral Torah, as it states, see that I have taught you. Just as I, Moshe, studied free of charge, so too you learn from me free of charge. And so when you teach future generations, it must be free of charge, just as you learned from me. Okay, one cannot find anyone to teach him for free. He should pay to study, as it states, acquire truth. Is it perhaps permitted to teach others for payment? The Torah therefore says, but do not sell it. For which we learn that it is forbidden to teach in exchange for payment, even though his own teacher taught him for payment. Every individual of Israel is obligated to study Torah, whether rich or poor, whether sound of body or suffering from ill health, whether a young man or one greatly aged and of failing strength. Even a destitute person who begs from door to door, and even a husband burdened by the care of his wife and children, must set himself a time to study Torah by day and by night, as it states, and you shall contemplate it by day and by night. Among the great sages of Israel, some were woodchoppers, some were water bearers, some were blind, yet they occupied themselves with Torah by day and by night. They are included among those who transmitted the oral tradition from one man to the next, going back all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu. Until when is one obligated to study Torah? Until the day he dies, as it states, lest they leave your heart all the days of your life. And if at any point one ceases to occupy himself with study, he forgets. One is obligated to split his study time in 3 parts: one for the written Torah, one for the oral Torah, and 1/3 should be spent on comprehension, to derive the conclusion from the premise, and to deduce one matter from the other relevant subject, and to compare matters to each other and draw a meaning from the laws of biblical exegesis, until he knows how to substantially apply these laws and how to determine what is forbidden and what is permitted and the like, and from what he has learned through the oral tradition. This method is referred to as Talmud. So, written Torah, Mishneh, Talmud. How should one do so? If he is a tradesman who occupies himself with his trade for 3 hours a day, wow, right, and studies Torah for 9 hours, of those 9 hours, for 3 of them, he should study the written Torah, for 3 of them, he should study the oral Torah, and for 3 of them, he should contemplate in his mind so that he comprehends one matter from another. The words of the prophets are a part of the written Torah. Their explanations are a part of the oral Torah, and those subjects referred to as pardes, Peshat, Remez, Drash, Sod, are considered a part of the Talmud. So when should this division be followed? At the beginning of a person's course of study, but once he grows in wisdom and no longer needs to study the written Torah, nor to constantly occupy himself with the oral Torah, he should read occasionally in the written Torah and the words of the prophets, so that he not forget anything of the Torah's subjects, and he should then clear his days for Talmud alone, as appropriate for his intellectual capacity and composure of mind. So a woman who studies Torah is rewarded for doing so, but her reward is not like a man's reward, since it is not incumbent upon her, and one who does something in which he is not commanded does not merit reward at the level of one upon whom it is incumbent, but only a lesser reward. Although she will be rewarded, the sage is instructed that one not teach his daughter Torah, because most women do not have the focus of mind and reflective study, and may take Torah subjects out of their context to frivolous matters in congruence to their limited understanding. So, I mean, that has to be seen in the time period when, like, there was, people had a lot more chores and responsibilities and things like that. In today's world, we have a lot more access to things, you know, because if you just had a limited number of things that you had access to as far as writing materials and things like that, the man has the obligation to study and teach Torah, whereas the woman does not. So it would have been, you know, they would be less inclined. Again, this is completely, you know, so in today's world, people have a lot more time. They have a lot more access to things. You can completely get books for free. You know, you buy something on Amazon, you get a digital reward for something. You can get like a Kindle book on your phone, and everything's free. Safaria, things like that. So, I mean, it's completely not a problem for women to learn Torah. So, let's see, the sages said, one who teaches his daughter Torah, it is as if he taught her foolishness. What does this refer to? To the oral tradition, to the oral Torah. But as to the written Torah, he should not teach her a priori. But if he did teach her, it is not considered as if he taught her foolishness. And there were a handful of notable female rabbis and leaders. I mean, you see is you know, Miriam, obviously, Devorah. We have a children's book around here of female rabbi from many years back. I think in Babylon. It's like Judaism actually was a religion that actually appreciated women, as opposed to like Islam and some other religions, ancient religions and things, where women were a lot more denigrated. So, a community must appoint teachers of children in every city and every region. In any city without children studying Torah in their teacher's house, the people of the city should be excommunicated until they appoint a teacher of children. If they still do not appoint a teacher, the city should be destroyed, for the world does not continue to exist except by merit of children studying Torah. And I'm sorry, that chapter I just read, that paragraph I just read there is the start of chapter 2, Parach Beit. Okay, so children are introduced to formal schooling when they are about 6 or 7 years old, depending on their stamina and physique, but not before age 6. The teacher may strike them so that they be in awe, but he may not strike them cruelly as an enemy would. He may therefore not strike them with a staff, nor with twigs, but only with a small strap, He should sit and teach them all day long and for some of the night in order to educate them to study by day and by night. Young children should not be idled from study at all, except for eves of Shabbos and the festivals towards the end of the day, and on the festivals themselves. On Shabbos, although they should not read new material, they may review previously studied material. Children must not be idled from Torah study even for the purpose of building the Beit HaMikdash. A teacher of children who leaves the children alone and goes out, or who performs other work with them, or who is careless in teaching them, is included in "Cursed be the one who does Hashem's work deceitfully." Therefore, it is not appropriate to install a teacher if he is not God-fearing, expert at scriptural reading, and precise. One who is unmarried should not teach children because of their mothers who come along with their sons. A woman should also not teach children because of the fathers who come along with their sons. So the intermingling there. 25 children can study with one teacher. If there are more than 25, if they number up to 40, we appoint another with him to assist in their teaching. If there are more than 40, we appoint 2 teachers for them. It is permissible to transfer a child from one teacher to another more expert than he, be it in scriptural reading or in precision. When may one do so? When they are both in the same city, with no river separating them. However, from one city to another, or from one side of a river to the other, even in the same city, a child should not be transferred unless there is a strong bridge over the river, one unlikely to collapse soon. If one of the residents of an alleyway wishes to become a teacher, or even if it is one of the residents of a shared courtyard, his neighbors have no right to protest. So too, if there is one teacher of children and his fellow comes and opens a school for teaching children adjacent to the first, so that other children will come to him, or so that children who study with the first teacher should transfer to his tutelage, the first teacher has no right to protest, as it states. Hashem wishes, for the sake of his righteousness, to make the Torah great and glorious. So chapter 3, the people of Israel are crowned with 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. The crown of priesthood was acquired by Aaron, as it states, and it shall be for him and his children after him a covenant of eternal priesthood. The crown of royalty was acquired by David, as it states, his seed shall last forever, and his throne as the sun before me. The crown of Torah, though is set and waiting and accessible to all, as it states, the inheritance of the community of Yaakov, anyone who so desires may come and take it. Perhaps one might say that those other crowns are greater than the crown of Torah. It therefore states regarding the Torah, "Through me kings shall reign, through me lords shall rule." This teaches that the crown of Torah is greater than the crown of priesthood and the crown of royalty. The sages said, a bastard who is a Torah scholar takes precedence over a Kohen Gadol, who is a bore, as it states, it is more precious than pearls, literally, than the innermost, meaning that the Torah is more precious than a Kohen Gadol who enters the innermost sanctum, the Kodesh HaKodeshim. Not one of all the mitzvot is equal to Torah study. Rather, studying Torah is equivalent to fulfilling all the mitzvot. For study brings to action, therefore study takes precedence to action in all situations. If one has the choice of doing a mitzvah or studying Torah, or if the mitzvah can be fulfilled by others, he should not pause his study, but if not, he should do the mitzvah and then return to his Torah study. At the start of a man's final judgment after his passing, he is judged only regarding Torah study, and afterwards regarding the rest of his actions. Therefore, the sages said, one should always occupy himself with Torah, even if not motivated for the Torah's sake, for through study, without proper motivation, he will eventually study the Torah for its sake. One whose heart has raised him up to fulfill this mitzvah in a matter befitting it, and to be crowned with the crown of Torah, should not divert his attention to other matters, and should not imagine that he will acquire Torah along with wealth and honor. For this is the way of Torah. You shall eat bread with salt, and sleep on the earth, and live a life of difficulty and toil in the Torah. You are not responsible for completing the task, but neither are you free to idle from it. If you cause Torah to proliferate, your reward will proliferate, and the reward will be relative to the difficulty you sustain. One might say, I will first accumulate wealth and then go back to study, or I will first acquire what I need and dispose of my affairs and then return to study. If this thought comes to your mind, you will never acquire the crown of Torah. Instead, you should make Torah your primary occupation and your trade secondary. Do not say, when I am free, I will study, for perhaps you will never be free. It is written regarding the Torah, it is not in the heavens, nor is it beyond the sea. Not in the heavens means that it is not to be found in the haughty, nor is it beyond the sea means that it is not found in merchants who travel overseas. This is why the sages said, not all who prosper at trade attain wisdom, and also instructed, reduce the extent of your business dealings and occupy yourself with Torah. The words of Torah compared to water, as it states, lo, all who are thirsty go to water. This comes to teach that just as water does not gather on a slope, but rather flowing along it and gather in the flat lowlands, so too words of Torah are not to be found in the proud, nor in the minds of the haughty. Rather, they are to be found in the meek and modest who sit in the dust at the feet of the sages and remove temporal desires and pleasures from their hearts, who labor each day just enough for their livelihood, if they do not otherwise have enough to eat, and for the remainder of the days and nights involve themselves in Torah. One who decides to involve himself in Torah and not to work at any trade, with the intention of being supported through charity, has desecrated Hashem's name and brought derision upon the Torah, and has extinguished the light of the religion and caused himself harm, and has removed his life from the world to come. For it is forbidden to derive benefit from words of Torah in this world. Our sages said, one who derives benefit from words of Torah has removed his life from the world. They also instructed and said, do not make them a crown for self-aggrandizement, nor as a spade to dig with them. They additionally instructed and said, love labor, despise rabbinical status. Rabbanut. All Torah which is not accompanied by trade will eventually wane. This kind of person will eventually steal from others. It is a matter of great virtue to earn a livelihood by the toil of one's hands, and this was the attribute of the early pious ones. Through this one acquires all the honor and good of this world and of the next world, as it states, if you eat the toil of your hands, you are fortunate, and you will have it good. You are fortunate in this world, and you will have it good in the world to come, which is entirely good. Words of Torah cannot endure in one who is half-hearted in their study, nor in those who study in luxury and while feasting on food and drink, rather only in one who gives his life for them and afflicts himself constantly, not allowing his eyes sleep nor slumber upon his eyelids. The sages said, by way of allusions, this is the Torah's teaching, when a man shall die in a tent, the Torah does not endure except in one who expends all his life force in the tents of wisdom. And so said Shlomo in his wisdom, if you let up on a difficult day, your strength will fail. He also said, still, my wisdom stayed with me, meaning that the wisdom which I studied in anguish, is that endured for me. The sages said there's an established covenant. There's an established covenant that anyone who exerts himself in his studies in the synagogue will not soon forget his study, and one who exerts himself at his studies in private will become wise, as it states, and with the modest is wisdom. One who studies aloud, his study will endure in his possession, but one who reads in a whisper easily forgets. Although it is an obligation to study both by day and by night, one does not learn the majority of his wisdom except at night. Therefore, one who wishes to merit the crown of Torah should be meticulous with all his nights and not waste even one of them in sleep, food, drink, idle talk, and the like. Rather, he should spend them studying Torah and words of Torah. The sages said that the sound of Torah is only heard at night, as it states, arise and raise your voice at night. One who occupies himself with Torah at night has a thread of kindness from above, drawn upon by day, as it states, by day Hashem shall command his kindness, and at night his song is with me. Any house where words of Torah are not heard at night will be consumed by fire. For he has denigrated Hashem's word. This refers to one who pays no heed at all to the words of Torah. Certainly one who is capable of involving himself in Torah, but does not do so, or who has read scripture and studied Mishneh, but then withdraws to the vain pursuits of the world, and has set aside his study and abandoned it, it is definitely counted as one who denigrates Hashem's word. The sages said, one who idles from Torah out of wealth will eventually idle from it out of poverty. One who fulfills the Torah out of poverty will eventually fulfill it out of wealth. This matter is stated explicitly in the Torah, for it says, because you did not serve Hashem your God in joy and gladness of heart, from an excess of all, you shall serve your enemy. And it states, so as to afflict you and test you for your ultimate benefit. So that's chapters 1 through 3 of Hilchot Talmud Torah from Sefer Mada and the Mishneh Torah.